Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Through the night, deep in the heart of Texas, the trailer park is nice and dark. Deep in the heart of Texas, Ted drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Bois, King of the Hill podcast. Oh, boy, I almost didn't get that word out.
That was rough.
I am Mike, and this is Rusty. Yeah. So, Rusty, we're all the way up to Season 5, Episode 9, Chasing Bobby.
Chasing Bobby.
You know, a lot of these we record on either Saturdays or Sunday mornings. Right now, it's about 11:20 on a Sunday. And what you said you'd been watching something all morning. What have you been watching?
I've been watching snooker all morning, which is a billiard.
Snooker.
Which is not billiards. Billiards is the 15 balls.
See, I always thought billiards was anything you play with those balls.
No, I think billiards is specifically like a 15-ball rack with the 8-ball in the middle, and the 8-ball is the the winning ball.
Okay. So 9-ball you wouldn't consider billiards?
9-ball is 9-ball.
Okay.
They call the 15-ball game with the 8-ball in the middle, they call that 8-ball.
Okay.
But it's actually 15 balls.
All of this is making sense.
Yeah, but no, I've been watching snooker. So snooker is I don't know which one came first, the chicken or the egg. But snooker is played with 15 red balls.
Okay.
And then you have 5 colored balls. So at the
are they different colors, or are they just one
no, they're
other
different
single
colors.
color?
They're different colors.
Oh,
There's
okay.
pink, yellow, green, black, and blue. And so the way that game is played is, of course, you break the red balls, and then the red balls, you knock a red ball in, and then a colored ball in, and then a red ball in, and then a colored ball.
Oh, it has to go one or the other.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter which color?
No, it doesn't matter which color.
Okay. All right.
But when the colored ball is pocketed, it's pulled back out of the pocket and reset to its original position at the start of the game, because there's only 5 colored balls and there's 15 of the red balls.
Until you've knocked them all in with a red ball and the red ball has gone in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know all the rules like super intricately, because I'm just I remember my dad played it when I was a kid when we lived in England. Yeah. And then when we moved over here, of course, we transitioned from the big 12x6 snooker tables are huge. And then whenever we transitioned to the United States and I started going to bars with him and watching him play 8-ball, you're just on a standard pool, bar pool table.
So the snooker table is bigger?
Snooker tables are huge.
Huh. I didn't realize that.
And I didn't realize that either. That's what I was saying. Like, I just started watching it over the last couple of mornings because it's on early in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it's like lunchtime for them.
Sure.
So it'd be like morning time for us. So I just started putting it on the mornings. And so I knew pretty much like the basic rules. But there's like there's a point system. I don't know the point system, but there's like however many points you get. So I don't know, honestly, if you have to knock in all the balls to win or if it's like you hit a certain points, like darts.
Well, what's interesting to me is that
the points work.
Normally, are you cueing on the red ball, or are you cueing a white ball to hit the red ball to hit the pink ball?
No, you have the cue ball, and you hit your cue, like whenever you're on the break. whenever you're on the break, you have your 15-ball rack of the red balls, and then in the front you have, I think it's the pink ball in front, and then you have the black ball behind the rack.
Okay.
You can't hit either of those. So whenever you go to break the rack, you have to hit it on the sides.
Oh, I see.
You have to go straight on, hit it on either side.
Huh.
And depending on your break, of course, then you get to try your shots. You got to make a red one, colored one, red one, colored one. But they have a referee who comes and pulls the colored ball back out and resets that ball.
You're not knocking the colored ball in with the red ball.
No.
You have to complete a red ball, then a colored ball. I got you. Okay. Because I was thinking then everything would be like a 2-ball combo or whatever.
Yeah, but they're all the balls are lighter and smaller, and the cue sticks are thinner and a little different as well. And then they also use a bridge a lot, which is the thing where they set the stick on to go like that because the table's so long.
And just as a disclaimer, if your balls are lighter and your stick is longer, please see your doctor. Okay, let's go. Season 5, Episode 9, Chasing Bobby.
Chasing Bobby.
Okay, so I told you you may hear a lot of this because I had to print it on both sides because I was out of paper. So Chasing Bobby, we start with no bell, no yell. When we get one of those beautiful, and we've had this like 3 or 4 times now, that Arlen overview, with the butterfly and the whole thing,
the butterfly stuff.
We've had mosquitoes and we've had butterflies.
That's that Wes Archer direction.
Yeah. Well, and I love the way that it ties into the end also.
Oh, yeah, this the episode title, Chasing Bobby, is also, that's going to be a reference to the movie Chasing Amy, 1997, Ben Affleck, Joey Lauren Adams, Kevin Smith.
That's a Kevin Smith movie, right?
Yeah, that is
I think it was right after, like, Mallrats.
Universe.
Yeah, I think it was right after Mallrats. Okay, so everybody comes out of the garage, this being Hank, Dale, Nancy, Bobby, Connie. They are on their way to the movies, we find out, because Peggy has a big newspaper up in front of her giant dome. And it says, okay, I have narrowed it down to one movie. We are seeing The Flowers of Time, rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association of America and PG-12 by Peggy Hill. She gets to come up with her own ratings. Yeah. Hank says, when I agreed to see a movie today, I assumed it was understood that I meant not a lady's picture. A lady's picture. She says, Hank, just because it takes place on a rose farm does not mean it's a lady's picture. He goes, it doesn't help. And he's absolutely right about that. All right, so he gets in. The
Flowers of Time.
They all get in the truck. It's such an innocuous name.
Yeah.
They get in the truck. Truck won't start. Bill and Boomhauer are just kind of peeking over the fence there. Hank says, dang it, she's been giving me trouble all week. He pops the hood and gets out, and now all 4 of them are looking under the hood at the engine, while Peggy and Nancy are over there just kind of leaning on the truck waiting. The kids are on the bed of the truck on the tailgate. And he goes, first, this was distributor components. Then I had to tweak the carburetor's fuel air mixture. Peggy says, for God's sake, just take it to a mechanic. Okay.
Yeah.
Such an ass.
That's a tough one.
Dale says, another man touching all over, playing with their manifolds. And then Bill says, and then making Hank pay for it? Don't tell me.
That's really odd.
Yeah, it's like
really, really weird.
Yeah. He says, you'll pay for it. Hank says, Peggy, this truck's been through 4 presidents and 3 Cowboy Super Bowl victories.
And that actually brings us to mechanics. Our first Artie fact.
Go for it.
So the 3 Cowboys victories. So this gives us a bit of time frame of how old this is
Aikman.
This truck is.
Emmitt Smith. And
1993, 1994, 1996. Which 1993 and 1994 was one of the back-to-back Super Bowls, which we just had a back-to-back Super Bowl winning.
And this is
Kansas
2001
City.
When this came out. So you're talking 8 years probably, but it's probably more than that because he does say that it was 4 presidents. So that's 12
years. So you got to think 4 presidents would be
16 years.
Yeah, so 4 presidents would be Reagan, which takes you to what?
But does that mean Reagan twice?
Nah, 81 to 89. Yeah. So the truck is supposedly. Let me go to my notes here. Let's see if Artie's got it, because if Artie doesn't have it, I have it. Okay, yeah. So in this episode, this particular truck is like probably not both of Reagan's terms, probably his last term, but 86 is what this truck is supposed to be.
Okay.
Hank's Ford Ranger generally looks like a typical 1993, but for some reason in this episode is a 1986, and the reason why is because it can be identified by the it was the last year for the Rangers to use carburetors.
Oh.
So the fact that it's carbureted,
that's cool,
would connotate that it has to be at least that old. At least that old. Yeah, 86.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. And for one of those Rangers, 16 years is a long time.
Yeah, and the presidents would be Reagan, George W.H. Bush, Clinton, and George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. So both Bushes. And
well, and that makes sense, too, because we just had that thing where George W. Bush was coming through for handshakes and baby kissing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was this season also.
That was.
Okay. Truck finally starts. He says, there she goes. All right, everyone in quick. Peggy, to the flowers of time. No, I'm sorry, that's Bobby. To the flowers of time. I don't know why my voice changed there. Now we're at the Heimlich 18 Theater. And Peggy and Hank are getting their popcorn and their drinks and all that stuff, and he's putting more salt on his popcorn. He says, $5 a ton if you feed it to pigs, and it's the exact same corn. I mean, it's a decent argument. Bobby comes running up with Connie and goes, and they said nobody could beat the claw machine. He's got a stuffed bear in his hand. Hank says, that's great, son. Now give it to Connie. He goes, no, she won it for me. And Hank just kind of shakes his head. I mean, because it's whatever it is that's different, Bobby's going to do it. All right, now we're in the movie theater. And it is the title, Flowers of Time, comes up on the screen. We see two people on horses and butterflies and flowers. So this is our second time with the butterflies.
Yeah.
Butterflies, flowers. It's very like... gosh, what would you compare? The Notebook, that kind of feel, right? It's got that
one of them sappy
ladies picture. It's got
pictures.
that kind of feel to it. All right,
something I guess that Hank would be seeing.
I don't think Hank would watch this too much. Yeah,
well, I don't think
Bridge
Hank
on the River Kwai.
Want to watch
different.
anything that evokes an emotion.
No reason for it. Unless it's pride in America.
That would be
the only emotion.
I didn't get a dad that. My dad was more emotional, I guess, than his dad was. My dad's dad was born in 1912, so like the disconnect in generations between him and his, because he was born in 60, so the disconnect in them two generationally was way huge than what most fathers and sons go through.
Yeah. My dad took me to a ton of horror movies.
Horror movies?
That's what he mostly took me to see. Yeah, horror movies, some action stuff, but mostly horror movies.
Yeah, so... I can't remember where I was going with that.
Oh, you were saying about your dad being emotional.
Oh yeah, so E.T. was like a movie that he would cry at. He would cry at like E.T. and stuff like that. So there's movies. So my dad would actually cry in movies and watch. He would watch anything. My dad consumed. I guess because as a kid they didn't have a TV for like a good chunk of time when he was growing up. For probably like he didn't get a TV till like almost to where they could watch it all the time.
Right.
Till almost late 60s, early 70s.
Wow.
So whenever he got a TV, it was a novelty as a kid, but even as an adult, he would like Sci-Fi Channel, any movie, B movie, C movie.
He'd just watch anything.
D movie.
Yeah.
He just consume any kind of TV
well,
stuff.
Well, my father has that in common with him because he would watch anything.
Like, my dad would watch anything.
I
think it's because they come from a generation where TVs, like you had to go outside and watch the TV.
It was an extravagance. You know? I mean, it was a big deal. So when I owned the little video stores, I would get these screeners all the time. So studios send these to you so you'll watch them and then you'll buy the movie so you could put it in your store for rent. Yeah. And so I would give him all the screeners. That man would watch damn near, anything. Just terrible stuff. Because most of the screeners they send you, awful movies.
Yeah,
but they're just trying to get you to buy a few copies and put it in your store.
Yeah.
You know? I think he still has a lot of those that are on DVD. I think he still got them.
Yeah, no, I bet.
They're just garbage, but whatever.
I'd watch them, I like watching garbage stuff
Blue
like
Thunder
that.
2 or
I was
something
watching,
like that. You know?
Kamen Rider. It was it's a Japanese kind of like I want to call it like Power Rangers type thing. I know there's a name for it because there's a lot of those shows like that are in Japan that are serial or whatever like that. And it's like these guys that are dressed in these bug suits.
Oh.
And they ride motorcycles and stuff. It was pretty.
Wow.
It was pretty wild. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Oh, I would watch that. All right, so we have established that this is a very flowery movie, as Hank says, a ladies' movie.
Oh yeah, and Charlton Heston, Ethan Hawke never were ever in a movie together.
Okay, that makes sense. I did think about that as I was watching it.
Yeah.
Peggy says, this is Charlton Heston and Ethan Hawke's third movie together. The first two went straight to video. So, so that's what my father watched was those.
Straight to video.
Hank looks around. He only sees women in the theater with him. He goes, Dale and I are the only guys here. Peggy says, no, there are two gentlemen right over there, the ones with the mustaches. Now, Hank... Look, that is a pillow sham. She points at the screen.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming we're supposed to think that the two guys are there on a date, with each other.
Potentially.
Yeah. But again, to the credit of this show, nothing is brought up. Hank doesn't say a disparaging word. Nothing. Right? So
nothing at all.
And I'm not saying that he should. I'm just saying most people would think he would in that situation.
Or make some kind of grumble.
But he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. All right, later on, there is on the screen. There's a tractor that is turned over on the old man, who I'm assuming is Charlton Heston, and the other man, who I'm assuming is Ethan Hawke, kneels down and he's talking to him. Charlton Heston says, "The only thing keeping you alive." Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Ethan Hawke. I did the wrong voice. He goes, "The only thing keeping you alive is the pressure of the tractor." Charlton says, "Son, I never really got around to saying a lot of things." And Dale says, "For being 106, that man has a magnificent head of hair." And then Nancy's only line, "Shh, Shug." Peggy says, "This movie is good enough to have been based on a novel." Hank? And she looks over, and you hear on the screen, "I won't be making it to the harvest this year, son." And you see Hank turn away. He's starting to tear up.
Yeah, he's starting to tear up.
And Ethan Hawke's character says, yes, you will. You have to. He goes, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, Nathaniel. You are my rose." And then he just dies. And the other guy starts crying. Hank starts sobbing. He is crying hilarious. Straight up. And Peggy says, "Hank, are you crying?" "Nope, just watching the movie." Dale turns to him and goes, "Hank, you're scaring me. What the hell is going on?" He goes, I'm okay. Please continue to look at the screen." And Dale.
That's funny. That is hilarious as a line.
"Please continue looking at the screen."
Yeah.
Dale turns to everybody. "Hank Hill is weeping like a little French girl." I mean, just such an ass this guy is.
Terrible, yeah.
All right, now we're at the Hank house, the Hank Hill house.
Yeah, you don't do that. Like, if you see somebody, imagine if you saw your dad cry while watching the movie.
No.
Like, "Dad, you're crying.
You're crying like a girl.
You're crying, you girl. What are you doing, sissy?"
Well, I'll tell you this. When you really start dissecting this thing,
yeah,
Dale is much more of what people think about Texas than Hank ever is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because he's like, "Yeah, you're a little girl," that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he does fit the stereotype.
Yeah. All right, now we're at the hill.
Because I think that the stereotype of a typical Texan that people put in their mind is like, I think negative stereotypes is conspiracy theory, racist,
misogynistic,
homophobic,
all kinds of, all of those things they attribute to Texas. However, I read a story yesterday.
They could tack it onto the Texas government if they want.
Sure.
Or whatever, elements of.
The Texas government is all those things.
Or elements of. I'm not going to say everybody, every individual participating, but elements of.
Our governor rolls right in the room and just says something misogynistic and rolls out. Yeah. But I read a story yesterday about how most Gen Zers that are moving to a new state are moving to Texas. Which is weird.
Which is really
because you would think with all the crap that we have going on here with the anti-abortion and the migrant situation and the wall and all the crap that we're giving every human being, that you would think that those folks would shy away from it. But I guess because it's cheap.
Well, gerrymandering too is a whole lot of the reasons, because we're considered we're like a purple state really, because all of our major cities, except for Fort Worth, are all blue.
Yeah.
So if Texas could really flip, and I think that's why they're so.
Let me make
vigilant.
A small political announcement here. Okay, I'm not either side. I don't care, right? But I'm telling those Gen Zers that all moved here. You want to change things? Then go vote, because what's happening right now is all the old white guys, they're going to vote, and you're not. So if you want things to change, go vote.
Yeah, go vote.
All right. So now we're at the Hill House.
I can't vote. actually.
You can't?
No, I'm
Why?
not. Well, because I'm not a United States citizen.
Oh, you're not? You're on a green card still?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, probably will be.
Get out,
forever.
foreigner.
Yeah, get out, foreigner.
That was the Dale in me talking.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, I'm not at all. I can't vote, so really, like my opinion doesn't matter in the process.
It still matters.
I'm taxed
you still
without
live
representation.
Here. Well, that's aren't we all?
That they're getting one over. They're getting one over on me. It's the Boston Tea Party all over again.
I constantly feel like we have zero representation, and that's not just in Texas. All right, so we're at the Hill House. It's bedtime. Hank is in the bed. He's flipping TV channels. Peggy's in there brushing her teeth and probably thinking something terrible. And we hear the TV say, "Come see what Channel 84 calls a fragrant bouquet of human emotions." Yeah,
that's a funny little quote.
And he starts to tear up again just from the freaking commercial. Peggy goes, "Oh, Hank, come on. There's no reason to be ashamed about your crying." And then she goes, "But yet I am." What a crappy wife she is. What a crappy spouse.
Terrible, yeah.
There's no reason to be ashamed, but I am.
But I am.
Oh, my God. Hank goes, I wasn't crying. Coming in from the heat outdoors and into the air-conditioned theater is naturally going to cause some condensation. Okay.
Super shitty Peggy
All right,
moment.
Hank. Yeah, she goes, now, I'm not a professional psychologist, but I am an amateur psychologist. That means nothing, Peggy. And I think the spontaneous eye-watering may have something to do with your father. Hank says, nope, has nothing to do with anything. He just wants to move on, just wants to forget all about this and just keep moving. Peggy will not let any of this go.
She don't let it go at all.
Oh,
nah,
God,
she
no.
goes long on it. Yeah,
she goes,
she goes for too long.
She goes, well, think about it. You have a strained relationship with your dad, and your greatest fear is that he will die without telling you how much he loves you. You are Ethan Hawke, Hank.
You are Ethan Hawke. Such a bitch, man. That's a terrible.
He says, that's just crazy talk. Our relationship is strained but fine. Strained but fine.
Yeah, she's an asshole for that.
She says, wait, I don't know why I didn't see this. You're right. You're not Ethan Hawke. You're Charlton Heston. Bobby is Ethan Hawke.
Oh, okay.
Okay, lady.
All right.
She goes, yes, done. Like she's just closed the matter. That's all there is to it. He goes, no, it is not done. And I mean, he's starting to get a little pissed off. Peggy says, you and Bobby are very distant emotionally and quite distant physically. And you know that if you were ever pinned under a tractor, Bobby wouldn't be able to lift it, and you wouldn't be able to tell him that you love him. What? She goes, that, Hank, is why you were crying.
Yeah.
He said, no, there's something wrong with my eyes. Something seriously wrong. Yep, that's it. Good night. And he turns out and just rolls. He's just like, nope, my eyes are screwed up. Yeah. She goes, oh, okay. So now you're the amateur doctor. Interesting. God, what a turd she is.
The amount of repression right now, like the amount of repression that goes on in the next few scenes is insane. Like, I don't know how the man even shits at night. He's got to have a narrow sphincter,
he
too.
doesn't at one point.
Yeah, he's got to have a narrow sphincter, too, with that urethra. Man's so uptight that he goes to an actual doctor to get his eyes looked at.
Now we're going to find out why Hank was ashamed to cry. He's out in the alley with all four guys, and
ribbing him.
Dale says, Bell, knock, knock. He goes, who's there? Boo. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo, Hank.
Just killing him.
Bullshit. Boomhauer, man, that's a good one, man. I got another one. What do you call the difference between a man and a little squirt gun? What? Hank. And then they just all start laughing.
Yeah,
it's so rough, man. All right, now Hank is over there pouring oil into the truck, and Bobby's kind of helping him or watching or whatever. And he goes, so I forgot how long the straw was, and it caught me in the eye. That was Sprite running down my cheek, not tears.
Yeah, that's a horrible excuse.
Bobby's just like, okay. Peggy comes out. She goes, let's go, Hank. We have 2 o'clock with the optician at the mall. He's not a doctor, but there's nothing medically wrong with you, so it doesn't really matter, does it? All right, we're at the mall. We're at the Arlen Vision Center. And the doctor is looking into Hank's eyes. He goes, how much longer do you think you have to be this close to my face? The doctor says, I'm not really finding anything wrong with your eyes, Mr. Hill. Peggy says, just as I thought, and diagnosed yesterday. God, she would be so hard to just be around. You know, she's just a pain in the ass is what she is.
She's a pain in the ass. It's so funny to me that he goes all the way to a doctor, to an optometrist,
instead of
to get his eyes checked out before he'll say I was crying. Why won't you just say you're crying, man? Wasting all those people's time, man.
Don't want that.
That's funny.
All right, so they're back in the truck. Peggy says, "Are you ready to admit you were crying, Hank, or do we need to see a brain doctor? Because I will go right back in there and get a referral from the optician at the mall, so we can see about your brain." He tries to start. The truck won't start. He just doubles over and starts crying. He goes, all right, you're right. I'm crying. You happy now? She goes, well, I'm happy for me, but I'm sad for you. What?
What does that even mean?
What an asshole.
Yeah, this is one of those
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for me.
Hypertypical episodes for her.
She goes, but, honey, I promise to keep this between you and me, Bobby and family therapist, and we will undoubtedly have to see. So, her, him, Bobby, and a therapist. But she's going to keep it under wraps other than that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He goes, I'm not crying because of Bobby. Charlton Heston isn't me or Bobby. Charlton Heston is my truck. Peggy goes, nope, this is not because of your truck, Hank. I mean, Jesus, he's telling you exactly what it is. He says, I think something's wrong with her. I checked her this morning, and there was water in the exhaust, which, not a great sign. Not a great sign. And he just says, he just like, oh, God. Like, he's just so broken up.
Yeah.
And that is the first commercial break. We'll take that, and we will be
right back.
What he said. All right, and we are back. Hank has now taken his truck to Handley Brothers Auto Repair. The truck got towed in because he couldn't make it go. Hank is standing there. He's very nervous while they're looking at it. The mechanic looks at him and goes, Mr. Hill, I'm afraid the news isn't good. She's only got about 500 miles left, 600 if you drive downhill, which I think is that's a great line. He goes, I'm just going to close her up. Hank's like, you're not even going to try to fix it? He goes, it would cost more to fix this truck than it's worth. No, sir, I do not accept your answer. This truck is giving me, and you cannot put a blue book value on that. Now, who's going to tow me home? He's just
but the 500
adamant.
miles thing is bullshit. If a mechanic ever tells you that,
it's crap.
Because there's no way to put how many miles a vehicle will last or not. We had a Blazer when I was growing up that my parents used to let me drive. It was like the vehicle that I drove. It wasn't mine, but it was mine to drive. You know? And the odometer on it stopped working at like one something, like 160 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I drove. I guess it was like another 6 years on that, 7 years on top of that it was drove. And we didn't even know how many miles was on it, so we used to drive the hell out of it. Yeah,
I'll tell you this, and it makes me sound like an old man, but the cars are not made the same as they were.
No.
Much cheaper, but with more stuff on them, which just means more things to fix, and they just
more expensive fixes nowadays too.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you used to go to AutoZone, get a $40 or $50 part, and slap it on your car, and you're good for another 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're replacing the same part 5 or 6 times, in the lifespan of the car.
Yeah, it's not great. All right, so
and that's not all cars.
No, that's true.
That is American-made vehicles, sadly, because some of the best brands to buy and drive that are reliable are like Toyota and Honda. And
those motors will
Japanese
go 300,000
vehicles and
miles,
stuff like that. Because I have a Toyota. It's not a Toyota, but it's a Toyota-made vehicle, and man, I've got like 80-something thousand miles on it, and since I've had it, there's been like zero. No, like I've seen people go buy like brand new Chevys, and they're hitting like 50,000 miles, and like there's like catastrophic failures, and they're having to like go take the truck back in and have to get whole new trucks and stuff like that.
He's talking about my truck now.
Well, is that what happened to you?
No, it didn't.
Oh, okay. No, but didn't you wreck yours out of Ted Nugent's?
I did not wreck mine at Ted Nugent's. A tree fell in front of me, and I ran into it in front of Ted Nugent's house.
How does a tree like one in a million?
It was a bad storm, and this tree had to be 100 years old because it was huge, and it just fell right in front of my truck, and I just barely hit it, but put enough of a hole in it so that 3-4 months later, it stopped turning over, and it's because some water had gotten into the electrical system through that light. Yeah, it was nuts.
That is nuts.
I thought I was going to get killed at Ted Nugent's house. All right. So
I saw he was signing hats and selling them online.
Dude is signing everything.
I wanted to buy one and wear it just for satire.
So he gave me one.
Oh, yeah.
While I was there, and I took it to my father and let him wear it because my dad's like a big MAGA guy. So I said, there you go. Here's a hat. Cover up your balding head. All right, so we're back in Hank's driveway. He's under the hood because apparently they've towed the truck back to his house. All 3 guys are watching from behind the fence, and Dale says, Hank's never going to let go of the truck. We're the ones who are going to suffer. We'll now be rides to the AutoZone and those chumps who will push my truck. Bill says, you can't blame Hank for being attached to his truck. He loves it, and that's what you do when you love something. You cling to it so it doesn't try to run away. Okay, Bill, there might be a little bit more in that.
Yeah, a lot more.
Dale says, I've had my van for 10 years. First sign of weakness, I'll shoot her myself. All right, Dale. The truck starts, but it's super rough. Hank says, look, she's running. All I did was change the spark plugs, adjust the valve train, and rebuild the carburetor. And Dale says, she's powering like Eartha Kitt. You know who Eartha Kitt is? She played Catwoman in the original 60s Batman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's why he says she's purring.
I got that.
Then the engine catches fire, which is that's always a bad sign when your engine catches fire. Boomhauer says, you got dang old fire in the hole, man. Ain't going to do nothing but blow, man. Hank says, no, nothing to worry about. Probably just leaking the fuel line. I'll just have to watch it till the engine runs out of gas. And he's just got a fire extinguisher just putting out the fire in his engine. Later, they're all looking at it, and he goes...
And then they use ether, something like that?
Oh, I don't know. In a fire extinguisher?
Oh, not a fire extinguisher, no. When they're messing with vehicles like cars.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. They're just all like, yep, mm-hmm. And then the fire comes up again. Hank goes, squirts it out, and he goes, yep. Let me. This is just
yeah.
Good for you guys, right?
It can be used as a starting fluid.
Oh yeah. That's
ether.
In the starter cans.
Yeah.
Spray that
ether.
stuff in
because my dad he's been a mechanic since he was in high school.
Oh,
so it was his trade for a lot of years, but he kind of just he was a mechanic for some people, and then he'd go do something else like a
shade tree mechanic, right? Like a guy who does it on his own time.
No, I wouldn't say a shade. I would say a shade tree mechanic. Lot higher skilled than a shade tree mechanic. He started out doing it in school, learning it in school.
Yeah.
And whenever he graduated school, they hired him on at Conley or whatever, and for four years or so, something like that, he was their mechanic, on all the school buses and all that kind of stuff like that. But I've always seen him use and I asked him, well, that's ether. That's ether. Don't smell it. You move your head. Don't smell it. That stuff will knock you out.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it will definitely.
What movie is that?
That's why
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
we're on an ether binge, and they're just stumbling into the casinos.
Well, my dad used to work at an electronics store here in town, homegrown electronics store, sold to all the schools and all that stuff. But they had cans of starter fluid, and they had cans of this and stuff, and they would get guys come in there and buy it all the time, and then they just squirt it into a paper bag. They'd find them across the street, passed out, and all kinds of stuff. All right, so it's nighttime in the driveway. Bobby is in the driver's seat, and they're trying to get this thing going again. He goes, all right, Bobby, I think the carburetor just needs a little fine-tuning. Crank it gently. He cranks it a little bit. There comes the fire again. Now we get this flashback. Hank has this big, giant, full head of hair. Yeah. He's got a tie on. He's all dressed up. Obviously, it's a long time ago when he first got the truck.
Sticker price.
He goes out and honks the horn. Peggy runs out, and he goes, Peggy, I know you said you'd divorce me if I got rid of the Maverick, so I hope you were kidding. She goes, oh, Hank, it's beautiful. And then we go back to the current time, and we get another fire in the engine. so
he was driving a Ford Maverick. That's a pretty nice car.
The Mavericks are back, right?
Are they?
Don't they make a Maverick again?
I don't know.
I think they do. All right. So next day, Hank is asleep.
Yeah, they do. They got the 2024 Ford
That's what
Maverick.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next day, Hank is falling asleep in a folding chair out in front of the truck, like he's sitting up with it, like it's sick.
But the Ford Maverick was a car at this time, though,
right?
In the 70s. Now it's a truck.
It was like a little bit bigger than a Pinto or whatever.
Yeah. But now it's a truck.
Yeah.
So the new Ford Maverick
they're weird looking. I'm not a big fan.
One of those baby trucks.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that.
Oh.
So they have the Ranger and the Maverick. Then they're both small trucks.
That's that new emerging market for vehicles. That how the vehicle market changes. Like we had the what do they call them? The midsize SUVs, like the crossovers or whatever they call them. Yeah. So you had the era of crossovers. Was like there's a lot of crossovers being bought. During that. When they first came out, everybody came out with one, and you can go through a parking lot at a soccer game and look, and they all look alike. But you go look, and you'll see every single one of them is a different brand of vehicle, but they all have that similar look. That similar look. I really think that it used to be an art form, back in the day. Now it's more function over form.
For
like
cars?
It used to be more of an art back when they were first doing it. And like especially that era of beautiful cars from like the late 50s all the way to like the early 70s, like that 20-year time period ish.
I love a good like 67, 68 Mustang.
Yeah,
right?
those are beautiful.
They're great. I had
fastbacks.
I had one of each.
Cars.
One of them I totaled twice, and the other one my cousin cracked the block on it.
Oh no!
But we had those Mustangs. But I will tell you,
they were only like 15-year-old cars when you were getting ready to start driving, weren't they?
I don't know about that. It was old enough that when I wrecked it the first time, they totaled it, so we redid the car. And then it got wrecked again and totaled again. So it got totaled twice. But I'm a sucker for like a 72 Mustang because it's got a big ass on it. Like it's just a big car.
The closest thing
it looks
I ever
more like
had,
a Challenger or something.
I had like one of the last muscle cars, I guess you could say, if you want to call it one of them. I had the 5.0 Mustang motor in a 1996 Ford Thunderbird.
Yeah.
And that sucker would get it.
Yeah.
It was a fun car.
Was it the big Thunderbird?
It was the big. It was a 2-door. It was the big 2-door. It was the Mercury Marks something. They were like similar because if I ever had to go to Pick and Pull to get a part, they give you the list of like what cars you could get parts off of, and it was they looked almost inside. They almost looked identical. Yeah. Because the Mercury is made by Ford. Obviously,
my parents got one of those big Thunderbirds when they first came out, and I backed it out of the driveway and ripped one of the doors off.
The back seat was massive on them. Like I used to sleep in it sometimes. It was a really big back seat.
I put the door in the trunk and just kind of hanging out, and then I strapped myself in and drove it to the dealership without a door on it and said, "Hey, you got to fix this because they're coming home soon."
That's funny.
And they did, and then I took it and I fishtailed it into a light pole. All right, so
you had a lot of fun driving.
It was all right. I mean, it was a big car.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't get killed when I hit a light pole, so.
The ones the 90s models or whatever, they were really big for what it was for just a 2-door car.
Yeah.
It was as long.
It's huge.
It was as long as like a 4-door sedan,
and when
but
you
it was
think
only
about
a 2-door car.
When you think about an original Thunderbird, those are little cars.
Yeah.
Little
the
tiny
50
cars.
ones, like the ones that come out in the 50s. Yeah, they were little dainty little cars with like no back seat. But the back seat on that 96 was massive. I don't know why it had such a big back seat area. It had it like super tinted and everything.
I know these are not the cars we're talking about, but since we're talking about
cars, it's a car episode. It's a car-centric episode.
My favorite car that I ever owned was a Bronco 2. Smaller version of a Bronco.
Oh, they're worth a fortune these days.
Jet black, red interior, which ended up being a theme for me. I always had like red or black or both. But the cool thing about it is I put tint on the windows so that it was dark as hell.
Yeah.
Had a giant Oilers sticker on the back window, and I cut around the tint so that it would shine through. And it was, But the best thing about that car was, or truck or whatever you want to call it, it had this huge, like you could lay the back seat down, and it was a big area.
Yeah.
So big that you could maybe get a sleeping bag and a girl back there or something, while somebody else is driving.
Ideally.
So that was my favorite part of the car.
Yeah. I guess my favorite car, since we're talking about favorite cars we've owned, was I actually had a smart car, like a 2016. And the
little one?
The little ones. The funnest thing about them was it's like a go-kart, but it's street legal, and it goes like 110 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So you could turn on a dime.
Shit out of me.
You could like turn on a dime, and then when you're going through the highway, if traffic's a little congested and people don't want to let you in, you really are just going to get in.
Zip through.
Like you could zip through a little bit easier. So when I was like, I would take it to major cities to drive in or whatever, like drive around Dallas or Austin.
Right.
It was so perfect for parking because I could park in spaces in any direction the vehicle wants to sit in.
Oh, sure.
I could get out of any situation pretty much. That's what I liked about it. It was awesome for that. And it was fun to drive, too. It was a really fun drive.
All right, so the car's caught fire again. Hank looks over the fence, and Dale is over there mowing on his riding lawnmower in nothing but a bathrobe. And Hank says, he yells over to him, "Hey, Dale, do you mind driving me over to the AutoZone? I'm just going to break down and buy a new carburetor." And Dale says, "And so it begins." All right, now we're at Strickland Propane. Buck is right in front of the building, and he is pacing up and down. You can tell Buck is nervous.
Yeah.
Hank finally comes pulling up, and he goes, "Sorry, I'm almost late, sir." Almost, by the way. "Sorry, I'm almost late, sir. I tried that new left turn on 4th. It was okay." I mean, is this like we're making reviews of turns?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Buck says, yeah, I need you, Hank. Clark Mobile Homes is threatening to cancel their account. He says, "Oh, God, they have a heated pool and communal barbecue pits." He drives off with Buck. He goes, "What do I mean? What seems to be the problem, Mr. Clark?" The truck is kind of sputtering. It's starting to overheat as they're driving it. And Buck says, "It seems Enrique's been short filling their tanks." He goes, "Why would he do that?" "Well, I told him to." "Crap's almighty, it's hot in here." So you see the little gauge, it's starting to point to hot.
Yeah, and he's got the vents on, so it's like venting off the motor.
I have been there a million times.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times.
Hank
We'll never do it again.
Hank says, "Really? I was just thinking it was a little chilly in here." "No, you weren't, Hank."
Yeah, no, he's starting to make excuses now. Yeah, the car is literally dying.
The next thing we see, they're in Clark's office, and Clark is talking to him. By the way, Clark with his big gold chain, his glasses on a string. I mean, he looks like not a pimp, but maybe a bookie.
Yeah,
that kind of like he looks that kind of. He goes, "Now somebody's lying to me. Let's see. Is the girl in accounting my daughter? Or you fellas?" And it shows Buck and Hank, and they are just sweated to the bone. I mean, their just clothes are all wet and they look gross. Buck says, "Scout's on it, Roy. If Hank says those tanks were filled, by God, those tanks were filled." Hank says, "Actually, sir, if you recall, what I said was, woo-wee, I don't like to get this sweaty unless I have a, little lady to towel off on." He gets up and he just passes right out onto the floor.
Yeah.
Hank says, "We lost the account, didn't we?" And talking to Clark. All right, now we're at the dinner table with Peggy and Bobby.
He's such a sketchy person.
Bob
Strickland is so sketchy.
Bobby is regaling Peggy with tales of his day. So I raised my hand and I said, "Mrs. Donovan, I think I speak for the whole class when I say homework load has been a little heavy lately." And the class erupted. Like, it's just such a big deal. Hank comes through the front door and he is just super depressed looking. Peggy turns to him and goes, "Bobby was right in the middle of a great story. Start again, Bobby. Lots of energy." He goes, "Okay. It was a day like any," and then Hank butts in angrily and goes, "Here's a story for you. I've had a long day and I lost a big account and I don't have the energy to listen to any stories. The end." I mean, Hank's pissed if he's responding to people that way.
Oh, yeah.
Peggy says, "Bobby, honey, it's not because he doesn't love you." He goes, "I know, it's because of his truck." She says, "Well, that is what he keeps saying anyway, but I think it'd really help if your father fix his truck if the two of you spend some good time together." And Bobby says, "Fixing his truck?" She goes, "Oh, it doesn't matter what you do, Bobby." No, wait, honey. Don't tell him any more of those boring school stories, okay? Boring school stories. She's just such an ass to everybody in her family.
She is terrible.
All right, Bobby.
Especially to your kid.
Oh.
Like, tell me about your day. And then they were like, "All right, that was one too many stories.
Yeah,
I'm
it doesn't
good."
matter who it is. She's just an ass.
Yeah, she is.
All right.
She's all for Peggy and all for none.
So Bobby goes out to the garage. He sees Hank under the hood, and Bobby gets on one of those creepers. The creeper that you get under your car to change the oil or whatever, and he's like using it like a skateboard.
We had something like that in first grade where we would roll around on.
Yeah. I remember those.
Those were fun.
Yeah,
until
somebody gets their hands run over.
Yeah, when you're doing like full speed and you're not really paying attention to where your hands are, you kind of like you're holding on to the side, and then you kind of tuck your hand a little too far, and you catch the wheel with your hand and throws you forward.
I get flashbacks of that whenever I see hockey game. Like I'm just so surprised that people don't get their fingers cut off all the time in hockey.
We never did that in England, though. That's an American phenomenon.
Really?
That little tray thing.
Scoot around
but I've talked to so many people.
We don't like to move.
Well, I've talked to so many people that have been in the American school systems, and everybody has that same sliding on the creeper thing across the gym floor.
The parachute.
Y'all did the parachute too?
Oh, hell yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like we're like a generation apart, and y'all were doing the same thing.
Oh, we still did it. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that everybody was doing that.
So Bobby,
I thought it was like unique to like our area or something,
I think
everybody had the same experience.
I think it was a phenomenon. He says to Hank, "Hey,
you
Dad,
know what it was?
What?
Big parachute.
It was his big parachute pushing it on us. Yeah, I think it's a industrial war complex.
They had to they had all these parachutes and they had to do something with them, right?
I guess.
So they reconditioned all the World War II parachutes into some weird game for kindergartners.
I never understood it.
I thought it was fun because it was something different than walking around the gym.
What the hell are you learning?
We were doing. I mean,
you're not exerting yourself or anything.
No, because you would run in,
you just go, wee,
and then you would run out.
Wee.
Oh, y'all didn't run in and then run out?
We did, I guess.
Yeah. Red Rover.
Yeah.
Let Mike come over.
We were more running from dinosaurs at that point.
Oh, okay.
He goes, hey, Dad, I need an extra set of hands. And Hank says, this is not a toy. It's for lying down on. So Bobby, of course, lays down on the creeper, immediately. He pushes back and he spills some of the oil that's in a pan. He goes, dang it, Bobby. People are going to see this oil stain and think I'm a drunk. Now clean it up. He throws a newspaper at him for him to clean it up. Bobby looks in the newspaper and sees an ad for Pickup Truck Heaven in West Durndal. And so now we're inside. Hank is looking at the same paper because obviously Bobby's pointed it out. He goes, we perform miracles at Pickup Truck Heaven. So I called and I told them the transmission shot and the engine mounts are rusty and it was catching fire a lot. And they said, no problem. Hank says, this place is all the way in West Durndal. I'm not going to drive my truck 40 miles on some magic carpet ride to do some jackass mechanic can tell me there's nothing he can do. Damn, Hank, tell him what you think. He goes, come on, Dad. Your truck drove to the hospital when you cut your toe with a weed whacker. You owe it to her to at least try. Yeah. And that resonates with Hank, right? Because he sees his truck as a person.
Yeah.
Peggy.
He has personalized this truck. Oh. And, was it anthropomorphic?
Anthropomorphic.
Morphosized this thing.
Peggy says,
it's so weird. It's like you could almost write a romantic novel about Hank and the love of his truck.
It's weird to me
I wonder what that would look like.
How we always feminize things that aren't alive. Like the ship is a she or a her. Car, same thing.
Yeah. Peggy, well, if anybody wants to write the fan fiction of Hank and his truck's love story, I would love to hear about Hank hitting that.
Get on ChatGPT and write a 5-chapter love story between Hank and his truck. Peggy says, and you owe it to Bobby to take him along. After all, this is his brilliant idea. I wish I could take credit for it. Oh, I did buy the newspaper. Damn, Peggy. Damn. None of this stuff makes any difference, and she's always stepping in front of people.
She's wild.
It just sucks. Yeah. All right, both of them are in the truck, Hank and Bobby, and they're driving to West Durndal. Bobby is looking at the paper. It does have an oil stain on it because he was trying to sop up the oil with it. He goes, I'm not sure. The address is either 1523 or 1528. It says, look for the giant inflated gorilla. They drive up and they see a giant gorilla, and he goes, is that it? Well, yeah, Bobby, that's it. That's probably it. It's the only giant gorilla. They get out and they go.
It's the other giant inflated gorilla 5 miles up. Gorilla. Sorry, you got a little ways to go yet.
They get out at the lot here, and man walks up and he goes, hello, I am Marty Mendez. You must be Mr. Hill. I recognize your truck from your son's description. You have my condolences. Hank says, tell me, Marty, what do you recommend? He goes, a new truck. And that's when Hank clues in, looks around,
boop.
And realizes.
Bobby hit him with a quick one. Bobby drug him all the 84 miles, which is, when you're in Texas driving 80 more 84, I was about to say 80 morph miles.
80 morph miles.
When you're driving 84 miles, it's
a lot.
It's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
That's
and there's probably nothing between here and that 84 miles.
That's like the distance between here and Fort Worth or Dallas.
Yeah. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from us, something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, so he looks around and he realizes, oh, shit, I'm on a used car lot. And he goes, you're not a mechanic at all. You're a salesman. He goes, I am the salesman. Salesman of the month, March 1998. I'm sure I mentioned that to your son. I'm very proud of it. He just looks at Bobby and goes, how could you? All right, and that takes us to our next commercial break. We'll take that, and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back.
And we're back. Yeah, we're back at it now.
Hank and Bobby are back in the truck, and Hank is pissed. He's like, 84 miles, I'll never get back. Bobby goes, it's not my fault. Mom did buy the paper, so
Mom bought the paper.
Well, what I'm saying is it's been passed down from Peggy to Bobby in certain circumstances.
No, he's savvy of how his mom is. He's well aware of what she does, and that's his way of flipping it back on her, I believe, is like, if you're going to be mad at me, you better be just as mad at Mom because she did buy that paper.
He goes, I'm as mad as her as you are. The truck starts to sputter.
I'm as bad at her as you are.
The truck starts to sputter, and it stalls out on some railroad tracks. This is never good.
I got a couple of facts real
please.
fast for the railroad track thing. And
we have a railroad track
Artie
here.
gave me the facts, but I'm a train guy. I really like trains a lot. That's one of my.
I was going to say it reminds me of the train outside here that we hear.
We hear sometimes.
Through all the recordings.
I'm a really big train guy, so I really like trains a lot. Starting as a little kid in England, a lot of the travel that you do in England when you go from place to place
is train.
Because it's. Public transportation exists over there. Like, imagine if we had a train system right here where you could just get on a train.
Oh, I'd love it.
Go to Dallas.
Love it.
It would be awesome to have a train system. And
we need
Texas,
a bullet train.
Bullet train or not, just we need a train system.
I want a bullet
anything,
train.
even if we just had steam engines again.
I want to get to Dallas in 45 minutes.
Just all the ripping up all the tracks and stuff that they've done. A lot of it is car companies.
Yeah.
That's one thing in the United States is like the car companies have. I'm pretty sure behind the scenes have tried to work this out to get to beat like big train or
big oil, big train, big whatever,
all this stuff. But so it takes like a mile and a half for a train to actually stop when you pull the emergency brake.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter in situations if you're on that train track. There's also a number that you call if you get stuck on a train track, guys. Just remember this. This is a fun fact for anybody if this ever happens to you. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody, whenever you're at one of those weird intersections that has like a train track and a stop sign and like half your car is on the track, it's kind of, you always get in your mind, oh, am I going to get hit by a train kind of feel. Well, there is a number. If you ever stall out and you're at an intersection, look for the box, one of the boxes, the control boxes. Yeah. It will have a number to a control guy. Somewhere within the network.
I didn't know that.
And you call that number, and what they'll do is they'll alert any train that is on the track on either direction.
Oh, wow.
They'll alert those trains, hey, there is somebody stuck on this track.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Stand by for direction. Yeah. We'll let you know if you need to hit your brakes before you get there. Yeah. So they're able to judge on their GPS, because they're on GPS now. Mm-hmm. They'll be able to judge how far it is for them to stop before hitting you, so they'll be able to stop way ahead of time if you're actually stalled out. Don't ever go abuse that, because
Lord no.
That's a federal offense. I'm pretty sure false reporting.
Oh, it'd have to be
false reporting stuff on a railroad, because the railroad is really weird, and anybody that's ever done their own taxes knows that like it always has like, were you the military or a railroad or whatever, because they have their own federal like income stuff that they do with the federal government.
It's like up here on this floor, the company that shares the floor with us, all they do is postal insurance. Yeah, so it's the same kind of thing. They're all segregated like that. So they sputter out and they stall on the railroad tracks, and he goes, "Come on, Bobby, take the wheel." And he gets behind it and tries to push the truck, and he goes, "Oh, I can't push it myself. She's too solidly manufactured."
It's so funny.
The next thing we see, he's under the truck working on it on the tracks, which is a dangerous place to be. Bobby is over there balancing on the train rails and stuff, and he goes, "Stop making train noises. It's not funny." He goes, "Dad, it's not me. I think and then you see the guards start to come down and the bells are going off and all the ding, 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 all of that stuff." He goes, "Bobby, get away from the tracks now." "Dad, leave it." He goes, "Stop. Someone's on the track. Stop train. Stop." He's out there trying to wave the train down and all that.
And it won't stop.
Yep. And then he gets back in, tries to start it. Nothing happens. He runs out. Bobby falls down the hill because he's trying to run. And then finally, the train comes by and crushes the truck and carries it about half a mile down the tracks.
If you're ever something I do in the background sometimes is just as background noise. You could go on YouTube, and they actually have live
train noises
cameras. They have live cameras on train tracks, and they do it for air traffic too. There's a guy in Dallas that goes out there and sets up cameras. He's got like a live stream that he does where he'll sit there and this is playing Boeing blank 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 out of wherever it's landing in, flying out of, and you can also see train crashes.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of these live cameras will go and they'll piece together these compilation videos of footage they've caught, live action footage, and you could see train crashes. It's one of those things where it's like you don't want to look, but the euphemism is everybody likes to look at a train crash.
Rubbernecking, that's exactly what it is.
Cool fun fact, real fast for you. I don't know if you know this. You probably do. There used to be out towards west. They set up this
West, Texas,
not West Texas. They set up this little town, and this was an exposition with the train companies where they slammed 2 trains together. Have you ever heard about that?
Yes, I have, because one of our shows here, Waco History Podcast, they covered that a couple of times.
Yeah. So for those of y'all that don't know, you can look it up. It's called The Crash at Crush, and what it was is Katy Railroad at the time was doing like this exposition where they were trying to show off their trains and stuff. So they thought, let's slam 2 trains together. When they slammed those 2 trains together, the population of Crush made it the largest city in Texas. There was that many people that showed up to watch it that if they counted it as at the population of this town, because it was a pop-up town.
Yeah, sure.
They created a whole name for the city. There's a marker. There's a marker out there somewhere for it, like an actual numbered historical marker with the Texas Historical Association or whatever. And they just slammed these 2 trains together with crowds and crowds of people.
Wow.
So you could imagine what happens. There's a photograph on the internet of, you see a guy that like a piece of metal flies by him, and you can see on the camera the whole explosion and everything of these trains. But they said that it blew pieces of train like almost a mile away from the crash site. And it was 2 boiler trains. It was 2
this was
high
big trains. This was big old
pressurized steam trains. There's so much pressure in those boilers and stuff like that.
Well,
and let alone slammed them both together at full speed.
Let alone all the metal, and they're going 40, 50 miles an hour or whatever.
Whatever the full speed of that engine was at the time, they just slammed them both together.
Well, and
people died and stuff like that. So there was like a big ordeal behind all that.
I don't know what that's called, but when one thing is rushing towards another thing, don't you like double up the speed or whatever?
Yeah. So if they're doing 45 and one's doing 45 and you slam them together, that's
one train leaves Dallas at 8 a.m. The other train leaves Houston at 5 a.m. When will they? Yeah, it's that kind of thing, right? All right, so the truck has been crushed. The next thing we see later at that site, his truck is on the back of a tow truck, and this is one of the big ones with the bed on it.
I don't want to interrupt you, but this image is just fucking badass. He got it right at the point.
Oh, yeah.
This is a badass
Well, that's the same one. It's just 2 trains hitting each other, but that's the same image they used in their cover art. They did that show right before we were able to get that show from them.
I know
they did a live show
Baylor. I know he's from Baylor, that guy, right?
Yeah.
They have a huge collection, their Texas collection, or what they call it, because I go through it through their oral history collection all the time and read oral history.
Gildersleeve is the guy who took all those photos.
Fred
and stuff.
Gildersleeve.
There's a huge Gildersleeve collection.
This photographer was a guy called Joe Dean that took this, but Gildersleeve is a huge photographer for just this area in general.
Yeah, there's a huge collection over there.
He was a massive part of collecting this.
The oral history you're talking about, that's what Sloan is over. He's over the oral history
so
department.
That's what I do is I'll go listen, because they have stuff dating back. They've digitized from like the 60s and stuff like that they've got on their access to.
And it hasn't stopped, because when they come in and do an episode, or when he comes in and does an episode, I have to send the raw over to the oral history department because he goes in the archives.
He goes in the archives.
Yeah. So we're now recording stuff that goes in the archives, which is kind of cool.
Because there's a judge that used to be around here. They actually named the
Judge Roy Scream?
No, Bill Logue. They actually named the juvenile detention center after him. I grew up in the neighborhood that the juvenile detention center sat in, so I always saw that name. Well, when I started going through the Texas history collection, I started like clicking all these local names and stuff, and you get his entire history from when he grew up in Spiegelville, before Spiegelville was flooded out and made the lake, because they added the lake. Took over the original Spiegelville area. So just hearing like how this entire area grew, and listen to the story about these almost frontier-like experiences. Not like completely, but only 100 years removed from us, kind of thing. It's kind of cool, especially in the area I live in. I always find this stuff fascinating.
All right, listen real carefully. You can hear that train.
I love
there it goes.
Trains. I know it sucks in a recording.
Well, it does suck here,
atmosphere, but I love the sound.
Apparently,
of
they've reached some sort of deal where they're going to have these little quiet zones where the train doesn't honk as it comes right through the main part of the city.
Yeah, they're invested in millions of dollars, I'm sure, from all the taxes they collect from us. High amount of taxes for property anyway in this area right now. But they're supposed to be redoing each corner to make them safer as well. Because in the area that we're in, guys, it was dead for a really long time.
Yeah,
and the infrastructure never has not reached
didn't keep up
at all, zero. Like they're just now getting it to where traffic isn't god awful. And it's still god awful. And so these crossings, some of them are really like, rudimentary. Some of them weren't even put in until like the 70s.
There's some long ass trains that come through here too. Like,
it's a big freight highway. That's why
it's like you can look way back here over to your right, and it's still coming. Like it's been coming for 10 minutes.
This is a big freight corridor right here because it goes straight into the Belmead train yard that's right over here. That's still a train yard. It's not a big. It used to be the second largest steam repair shop. That's how Belmead really started. That's the name of Belmead comes from the guy. It was his hometown in Tennessee. It was called Belmead. Belmead. It was a horse farm. He grew up on Belmead Horse Farm, and that's why they named it that. But the train yard they still use as like a hub for swapping cars and stuff like that. So that's why that is right there where it's at anyway.
So we're at the crash.
Not that means anything to anybody.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
And the truck is being towed away, like I said, on a flatbed of a tow truck. And Bobby says, so that's what it sounds like when a train hits a truck. A little more trucky than I would have thought, considering how much train there was.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful line by Bobby.
Line.
That is a great line. Hank, being pissed, looks at Bobby and says, this is all your fault. You killed my truck. He goes, I was just trying to help, and if it wasn't a train, it would have been something else. The mechanic said he only had 500 miles left. Even if he was right, which he wasn't, I only drove 5 miles a year. I could have had her for another 100 years. We should have asked for a lift. And so the tow truck takes off, and he says we should have asked for a lift because now they're just stuck, right? So they start walking. They eventually make it back to the car lot with the giant inflatable gorilla. And he tells Bobby, all right, you just sit here and try not to break any more trucks. The car salesman comes up and goes, you go to back. He goes, save your fancy come-ons for Okies, okay? I told you before I'm not interested. Okies. So people from Oklahoma. He goes, and none of your song and dance is going to change that. He goes, believe me, it would. Now, as long as you have come back, I must feel that I could tell you this bad boy comes with a sunroof, seat warmers, and its standard package. So it's another truck. It's red. The only difference between this one and the old one, it looks a little bigger, and it's two-tone.
Yeah. So this one would be the let's see, Artie.
This is like a 2000 or a 2001?
1999 F250 Super Duty.
Oh, it's a 250.
250, and it's the XL because of the matte black. That little trim around, the matte black trim or whatever, that kind of, connotates. It's probably the Ford F250 Super Duty XL.
So he tells him all about the seat warmers and the sunroof, and he goes, well, sounds great. Let me just put on a dress and hop on up. Look, I just need a phone. He says, there's one in the truck. He goes, I'm just being honest with you. He goes, I'm just going to use the payphone in the showroom. Bobby, I'll do just a minute. And then he looks over, and he sees lightning strike and thunder roll, and there's no Bobby.
No Bobby.
He goes, Bobby? He's looking around, and he sees another salesman, and he goes, you looking for a little kid about this big by this big? That's the funniest part to me. He goes like deep and wide, this big by this big. He goes, he said he's walking home. What? Why didn't you try to stop him? It looked like he could use the exercise.
That's funny.
It's rough. There's another couple that the salesman's over there talking to, and she's like, red or green, honey? And Hank comes up and he goes, well, I give up. I didn't know if it was you or the truck, but I need to test drive this beauty right now. Salesman goes, oh, I knew it. It feels like March 98 all over again. Yes. And so he gives him the keys to the truck.
Yep.
Hank's going to take it for a test drive, but he's really just looking for Bobby at this point, right? He's going to drive around looking for him. Hank is driving around. It's raining. He's looking for Bobby everywhere. We see Bobby just walking around. He's got a coat over his head because it's raining now. He comes to the tracks. He sees the shifter knob from the truck that's popped off, and it's just laying there amongst all the wrecked debris.
Which is kind of weird that there was a shifter knob because it was an automatic truck, but we'll go with it.
It is, whatever. So he picks it up. We see Hank driving around. He drives by a bus bench, and he goes, "Excuse me, I'm looking for my son." One of the guys on the bench says, "A kid came running by asking for directions to Arlen." He goes, "That's him." And I pointed him north to Mariposa, but he went west on Travis. And the guy's just like, "Oh, well, I pointed, blah, blah, blah." They just keep talking. Hank drives off quick, and he goes, "Okay, west." He looks up, and inside the truck you see directions like north, northwest, west, or whatever.
Yep.
And so he's able to turn at the right place and go west like he said. And so that's kind of Hank's
it's got the
first,
compass on it.
Yeah, that's Hank's kind of first where he goes, "Oh, well, that's not bad." That kind of thing.
That blazer
right?
I was talking about earlier had the compass on it. I always thought it was so cool. I was like, yeah, I know which direction I'm going. I know I'm going north, damn it.
Dude, I'd still take that because I have no idea where I'm going. All right, so now Bobby, we see Bobby. He comes to a big puddle of standing water. He tries to get over it. His shoe sticks in the mud. Then we're back to Hank. He finally sees Bobby because he sees like his shoe prints and all that stuff in the mud. He goes, "Oh, Bobby." And then he stops real fast to avoid a tree in the road. And then he goes, "Oh, anti-lock brakes. That's why they didn't lock." Well, yeah they're anti-lock brakes, Hank. So that's his second clue that this truck is really nice and it could be something he could really use. You see Bobby wriggling out of his socks at the top of the hill, and he wrings them out. And then, like I say, he sees his tracks and all that stuff. He gets stuck, and then he shifts it down to four-wheel drive, and he gets out of the mud. So that's his third thing that he sees. And then you see Bobby. He's now shivering in the rain. He's on top of that rock on the top of the hill, and he's talking to himself. "You can do it, Bobby. Only 39 miles to go."
Yeah, hold that thought. So they drove 80 plus miles, and Bobby's at the 39 mile to go mark.
Yeah.
How did Bobby walk almost 50 plus miles or 40 plus miles?
Bobby's very quick.
In that, I would have to say that Bobby would go down as a Guinness Book of World Record for speed walking.
He is the Usain Bolt of speed walking in the rain. Yeah.
Man.
So Hank sees Bobby.
Little continuity issue.
He uses his four-wheel drives, the wipers on his lights, which, woo, that's a big
that's
one.
high end.
Anyway, he drives up to Bobby. He goes, "Bobby, quick, get in."
The wiper on the lights thing, though.
Why?
I just don't understand why you wiper.
It wipes the water off your lights.
But does it keep your? Does that?
I don't know.
Does
man.
Does the rain on your light? I don't.
All
think
I think about is the fact that I would have to replace another
lights
set of wipers.
nowadays don't matter anyway.
No,
Some of them suckers will cut right through you. Like it's killing me. Like night driving is terrible.
Those
for me.
police lights, far too much. Far too much. I go to a lot of concerts and stuff. So Casey and I end up driving a lot to Austin and Dallas and stuff like that, and we pass a lot of cops. And boy, at nighttime, those lights are freaking blinding. Like I would think they cause more wrecks, but
I would
who
think
am I?
so too. Or the big is what they call them, xenon lamps.
Oh my
xenon lamps.
Oh my God!
It's like that glow.
So the wife and I were coming home the other day, and we're driving down Hewitt Drive, so you guys can get an idea of where we're at. And I see in my rearview mirror this car behind us. I think it's a big truck, right? And it's got just this solid bar of lights, like a solid bar. It's not individual lights. It's like one big bar of light. And I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I asked her about it. She didn't know. And then we come to a stoplight, and one of those damn cyber trucks pulls up beside us, and that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I've seen them suckers on the road. Man, there's some of the ugliest looking things going down the road.
That's exactly the
conversation. It feels like an apocalyptic kind of feel when I've been in traffic where there's like 2 or 3 of them going down the road, like, within like 2 or 3 miles of each other, because I'm in Austin a lot.
It's awful.
And it feels apocalyptic. It feels like the end of the world's coming.
I told my wife, I was like, that's what it looks like when you have an 8-year-old draw a space truck. That's exactly what you're going to get out of it,
It looks like, that's what they look like. They look like
it looks like a Mars rover.
Where you've got a bunch of Lego pieces in a box, and you're
them.
piecing them together to try to make a car.
Yeah, they're so expensive. They all got recalled. I mean, I just
they
don't
have.
understand the point.
They said that there's a problem with the stainless steel coating or whatever on the sides of them where they're starting to rust.
Oh yeah.
But I think that would look cooler though. I think that would make them look infinitely cooler. Imagine driving around in this rusted out space truck. You would look almost like Mel Gibson in 2024.
Stopping and crapping about Jews. So he pulls up next to Bobby and he goes, Bobby, quick, get in. He goes, I'm fine, thank you. I am walking home. That's another thing he gets from his mother. He goes, Bobby, you got tired on the drive over here. Look, Bobby, I'm sorry I blamed you for killing my truck. I know it wasn't intentional. And Bobby doesn't often react this way.
Yeah, he goes in on it, yeah.
He goes, well, you're damn right it wasn't. It's like, yeah,
Whoa.
Go, Bobby. He goes, you think you're the only one who loved that truck? I spent the best years of my life in that truck. Hank says, you loved my truck? I'm sorry. I never got a chance to tell her that. Come on, why don't you climb on up? It's got seat warmers. And that gets to Bobby because he's like, oh, my butt is kind of numb. So he gets in and he goes, hey, I got my own airbag and vanity mirror. He gets over being pissed real quick.
Real fast.
Right?
Yeah, he's not mad for long.
Yeah, because he's got his own airbag and a vanity mirror. And he looks into it and he goes, oh, I look pretty sweet in this truck. Then he pulls out that shifter knob he had found on the ground. He goes, I found this by the tracks. Maybe she died there for a reason. Like she was trying to tell you something. Like, go back to the dealership and buy a new truck. It's okay. I'm in a better – and then the train hit her. And so you're right in the middle of Hank says, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe she is looking down on us right now from pickup truck heaven. The real one. What does that mean? The real heaven or the real heaven for cars? Is that only where trucks go? I don't really understand.
It reminds me
joke.
of what's the name of the short story? Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It was a Stephen King short story.
Maximum
about
Overdrive.
Cars. Was it Maximum Overdrive? Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Wasn't that
awful movie?
Emilio Estevez?
Emilio Estevez. Yeah. Terrible movie. It's got Green Goblin on the front of one of these trucks for some reason. And then a soda machine comes alive and hits him in the nuts with a can.
Yeah.
After that,
it was
I'm
a good
just
story,
like,
though.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that's what it even says right here. Here you go. Here you go. This is one of the funniest critiques of a movie I've ever heard of. Okay, King himself disowned the film. He described it as a moron movie.
It
and
is.
Considered the process a learning experience. It was based on trucks. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
His short story.
I remember that.
And so is this the first time that they made a movie from anything that he did? And this was just the shittiest.
I don't think
this
so.
Is how he learned?
No, because Carrie. I believe
no, it's not.
Christine was before that. I think Cujo was before that.
But it is. Here you go. So
Shining also.
It's
Shining
his only directorial effort.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
So Stephen King, I didn't know he had that much to do with it.
It was like a terrible cartoon. It was just a terrible cartoon.
Yeah, it says it was his only directorial effort, even though dozens of stuff had been based on his movies.
Two different extremes here. Maximum Overdrive from a short story that Stephen King wrote, and it was a terrible movie because they tried to fill in the blanks and make it long. And then the other side of that coin is The Green Mile, which is one of the greatest movies, and that's also from a bunch of short stories that he wrote, and that is excellent. And it's because he lets somebody else handle his work.
There's also some other ones that he's attached to that are also could be considered. Shawshank Redemption was
Stand By Me,
right? Was Shawshank Redemption one of his? Yeah.
Shawshank, Stand By Me was his. Yeah, I mean, he's got some great movies. The new It's, I mean, those are good movies. And
Shawshank Redemption was not only is it a really good movie, it's listed as like top 5 in most things you go look at on the internet. As far as IMDb goes, I think it's in the top 5 most watched on like IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a great like feel good movie. Plus, it's got Morgan Freeman doing most of the voice acting in it. So I mean, it's really great. What was the one I was thinking of? Dark Tower. Super disappointing because Dark Tower is like 46 books or whatever.
As much as I like it.
And they were so good, but the movie sucked.
As much as I like it, The Langoliers is really cheesy.
Yeah. But it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. Yeah. Dark Tower, though, that guy, that the current guy who's like Mr. Horror on Netflix, the one that did House of the Fall of Usher and all of that stuff, he is doing a Dark Tower series, which
another
Mike Flanagan.
One. Mike Flanagan.
It might be. That would be really good.
That would be good.
because it needs that sort of treatment.
Yeah,
because Dark Tower is an excellent story.
No, it's really good. Another good one that I liked. It was Needful Things.
Yeah,
that was a really
good
good one. That was a good one.
So he goes, yeah, maybe the real one, the real pickup truck heaven.
Whatever that means.
Bobby says, oh, man, there's something in my eye. So he's starting to kind of tear up now. Hank goes, yeah, it's a new car smell. It's very strong. Bobby says, I love this truck. Hank says, yeah, me too. But when we get back to the dealership, pretend like you hate it. and then at the very end, a butterfly flies by and it just pulls it all together.
Yep, and pulls it all.
We get the credits, and then after the credits, we hear Peggy say, "To the flowers of time."
Yep, to the flowers.
Or I'm sorry, it was Bobby. But that's it, guys. That is season 5, episode 9, Chasing Bobby. My papers are all over the place. I'm not used to them being on front and back. But I want to thank everybody for being here. We really appreciate it. And you want to tell them where they can find us?
Yeah. You can find us at bwaaakoth.com, or you can find us at bwaaakoth on social media.
That's it. You can also find this and a bunch of other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. We would be happy to see you there. What was I doing? Last night I was making some new shows for Snack Attack, which is just a little like 4 or 5 minute thing about snacks that have been discontinued.
What did y'all talk about?
We didn't. It's mostly a generated show.
Okay.
But like I was noticing last night that the Pepsi Clear was getting a lot of the hits. People want to hear about it. So I do Pepsi Clear, Jolt Cola. I did Waffle Crisp. Anyway, it's just Reggie Bar, things like that.
Yeah.
Just discontinued candy and drinks and sodas and snacks. And then there's Ned Hillsdale, private detective. I think I made 10 new episodes last night, something like that. I was just sitting there just cranking shit out yesterday. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff out there if you want to take a look at it. Another one is Cultastic, or How to Start a Cult Without Really Trying. That is a cult that is being generated by ChatGPT week by week. So there's some fun stuff to listen to. Now, I will say this. I had a thing happen this last week. I put out a thing on Instagram and said I'm looking for people that are interested in hosting true crime, because true crime always does well and all that. But with the advent of ChatGPT, I've realized you can make up these crimes. So it'll spit out police reports, it'll spit out all the stuff, right? And you've got a whole like little universe it'll build for you around this crime. And so this show will be about those crimes, right? So not true crime, but false crime. And I met a lady the other day.
Hilarious.
She came in, and my God, I couldn't have found anybody better to host this show. And so she's been dealing with ChatGPT for like a year and a half. She's good at prompts and all this stuff, and so she's going to help me develop some of the content and everything. We're just looking for a co-host at this point. But be looking for false crime, because I think that one's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah,
we don't have to – and I told my wife last night, I was like, we don't have to wait for anybody to be killed. We can just make it up.
Nobody has to really die
be great.
for it, yeah.
But we got all that coming up, guys. Please take a look. Also, February 29th, March 1st, and March 2nd, we will be holding the 3-day Waco Block Party here. Lots of live shows, music, movies, all kinds of stuff. But 3 days in Waco. If you're around this area, please come see us. We will be playing, I believe, on the 2nd, and Flame Trick Subs, our buddies that do the theme music for this, will be opening for us. So
awesome.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, guys, we will see you again on Friday for a That Ain't Right episode. And in the meantime,
we matanye.
We matanye, indeed. This has been a Rogue Media Network